Hello, intelligent beings of the other web. I like looking at places from above. Whenever I arrive to a new place, I try to find a mountain or a tower or an accessible roof to look from there. And preferably to look without glass and other inconveniences. With that in mind, a recently constructed Shibuya Scramble Square building in Tokyo caught my attention. The roof is occupied by Shibuya Sky Viewing Deck, and on promotional images it looked like the best roof in Tokyo, perhaps better than a personal favorite Mori Tower sky deck. It is also located in Shibuya, unlike other prominent views, and promotional materials commented on how you could see the famous Shibuya crossing from very much above. And so, I came to Shibuya station, came to the tower, stood in a fairly short line, bought a ticket, got up to the roof, left my bag in a locker, and was ready for the new view. It was impressive initially, with glass separating viewers from flying away, and an escalator going even more up. Unfortunately, the glass was up there as well. Turns out that the promotional photos were kind of misinterpreted by me. It looked like as there was an unobstructed view, but turns out it was limited to just one corner. The limited number of visitors per timing slot and late December, perfect for me but not warm enough for most travelers, meant that the number of guests wasn't that inconvenient. However, the only unobstructed view from that one particular corner also meant that there was a line to just stand there, with peer pressure allowing for just a couple of minutes. One thing worth of note is that unlike Mori Tower sky deck, Shibuya Sky is much more accessible, with elevators and escalators going all the way up. Shibuya crossing itself, well, it was barely visible behind the glass from the lower part near the exit, with the sun beautifully reflecting from that glass. The center of the roof has a raised area with grassy surface, and that's where the best overlook is, yet still spoiled by the tops of the glass barriers. And so, the personal favorite roof remained Roppongi Hills Mori Tower sky deck, which was visited soon afterwards. Roppongi Hills is the name of a development area. Mori Tower, constructed in 2003, is the focal point and the tallest building in Roppongi Hills. The tower is mostly used by businesses like Pokemon Company and Apple. For guests, however, one ticket gets access to Tokyo City View, a glass-filled observation deck, and Mori Art Museum, with rather neat modern art exhibitions there. At the time, there was an exhibition in Futurism, and some years before that there was a really good exhibition on Japanese architecture, both historic and current. In addition to that, there was an exhibition for additional fee, called The Railway Story in the Sky. Before that, there was a great Mummy in the Art and the Story exhibition. It seems like whoever sets up exhibitions there targets me in particular. And so like how I rushed to the Mummy exhibition, I rushed to that Railway Story one. The exhibition was a history of major post-war Japanese passenger railways. First Japanese National Railways, and then Japanese Railways Group, with signs, tickets and memorabilia. Other private railways got featured in a very limited capacity. Hokkaido got a lot of attention. Yoshioka Kaitei and Tapi Kaitei are now discontinued pre-high-speed stations inside the Seikei Tunnel, which connects Hokkaido to Honshu. Since the tunnel was opened in 1988, night services connected Tokyo to Sapporo, but with the arrival of Shinkansen connecting Shin-Aomori to Shin-Hakodate Hokuto, all were sadly discontinued by 2016. Maybe I've traveled too much on night trains, but night trains to Sapporo make much more sense than a long and tedious journey, considering that there is no Shinkansen from Shin-Hakodate Hokuto to Sapporo. Rather neat was a display of timetable books, beginning with 1964, the year when Shinkansen was introduced. Those books are phased out globally. Finland still has those. 2019 is the first year of Reiwa era, and it was celebrated in an exhibition with a section Dentetsu Mirai, featuring plans and dreams for expansion. Perhaps the most photographed part of the exhibition was a plywood steam engine with a plywood station, set in front of a panoramic window of Tokyo City View. Hokkaido also appeared in a small display related to ferries that were used before the construction of Seikan Tunnel, now mostly discontinued and only left there for cars. Like in railway museums in Japan, the most popular part was the bit with the railway arcade simulators. Of course, Denshi the Go. The exhibition continued into a cafe with panoramic views, a shop, and a gachapon with squiggly lines representing Tokyo Metro and Toei subway lines. The sunset was approaching and the only way was up. This is a PH2 floor. The roof, sky deck, requires an additional but rather small fee. It makes sense actually, as the roof is not always open depending on the weather, All the belongings must be left in a locker, which also makes sense given the wind. The view from the sky deck of Mori Tower is simply gorgeous. It is somewhat obstructed by engineering of the building, but much less so than the glass in Shibuya sky and most other views. The center of the building is a helipad. Previously it wasn't allowed to walk on the center green pit, but during that visit it seems it is no longer a thing. I wonder if it's because Shibuya sky allows this. The building with blue highlights is Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building in Shinjuku, famous for the free, even if limited view over the city, from behind glass of course. The viewing decks there also feature a market with regional products of Japan. One of the nicest aspects of the panorama from Roppongi Hills in how you get a superposition of both Tokyo Tower and Tokyo Skytree, two iconic towers of Tokyo. Tokyo Skytree, constructed a few years ago, is the tallest tower in the world and the second tallest human-made structure on the planet. Tokyo Tower is most adorable when looking from the outside. The view from tower is somewhat obscured as many years passed since construction in 1958. Curiously, it is also a site of Hanukkah celebrations of Tokyo Jewish community. That evening was nice in how the peak of Fuji could be seen. Not always it happens, with a mountain often being obscured by the clouds. Odaiba waterfront and the Rainbow Bridge are somewhat obscured by buildings around, but still are easy to spot in the direction of Tokyo Tower. With the roof open for the wind, not many visitors in colder times, and lack of glass and limited obstruction, Roppongi Hills Mori Tower definitely remains a personal favorite. Especially during the sunset, where reflections would ruin any view, even from the cleanest windows. Big night and good hugs everyone! Remember to subscribe here on YouTube and on Patreon, and remember to not forget your stuff in lockers. Roppongi Hills is an expensive place, but in between the Mori Tower and the metro there is a nice small pancake place with okay prices.